Hi, my name is Chela Sea, and I'm a study abroad advisor at the University of Wisconsin-Stout. Although we are all working and studying in unusual circumstances, now is a good time to consider your options to study abroad as part of your education at UW-Stout. So today I'll be highlighting a program that is generating a lot of buzz among current and incoming students, and that is concept art in Japan. I'm very excited to have Kimberly Delane, who is the faculty leading this program, here to speak about it, as well as Jamie Andrew, who is from the study abroad provider, helping us to organize the program. Before we share details about the program, I wanted to take just a minute to clarify the roles of the different people speaking to you today, since we do get questions from students about who exactly does what. So first, as part of the Office of International Education, my role is to meet with students to advise them on their opportunities to study abroad, to market this program as well as others, to manage student applications, to help with organizing all of these programs, and after the programs are done, to send out evaluations to students. Kimberly Delane, as a lecturer in the design department at UW-Stout, is the faculty leader of this program. She has designed this program focused on concept art and will of course be your instructor prior to, during, and after the trip. She will also conduct a pre-departure orientation with you to lay out the itinerary in more detail and prepare you for the trip. AEA, as represented by Jamie today, is what's called a study abroad provider. AEA specializes in running programs just like this one. They have a lot of experience and expertise in Japan, so they have helped Kimberly design this program by suggesting sites and activities. And they are the logistics experts, providing guidance on where you'll stay, where you'll eat, and how you'll get from place to place. Finally, they'll have one of their staff as an on-site coordinator available to your group the entire time you're in Japan to help everything run as smoothly as possible and be there to help in case of any emergencies. So I hope that explanation clears things up a little bit. Okay, let's talk about this program. You'll enjoy 9 days in Japan, leaving on January 7th, arriving on the 8th, and returning on the 17th. However, you should expect to complete coursework both before and after the trip, from January 4th through the 22nd. It is a 3-credit course for students who have a cumulative GPA of 2.0 or above, who are sophomore level or higher, and who have completed all 3 of the prerequisite courses, which are Drawing 2, Design Drawing, and Introduction to 2D Digital Imaging. Note that you had to have received a C or higher in the prereqs to be considered for this program. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Professor Delane, to share more about the program.
Thank you, Shella. So just to talk a little bit about the course first that you'll be taking. The course is DES 321, Digital Imagery Studio. The topic changes for this course every semester. Either it's environment focused or character focused. So the version that I'll be running for this study abroad program is going to be the environment version. Now, it does still start with gaining the foundations of digital painting. So we will still start out on campus doing those first, calculating drop shadows, figuring out what a bounce shadow is and how that works on different surfaces, doing some work on materials, hopefully, and before we get to Japan and starting to embrace, study, and observe their architectural details. Because, again, we're doing the environment version of this class. And then once we come back, we'll be taking what we studied there in Japan, we'll be applying it to our own designs. Usually I start with a smaller space for the first project. We do 3 projects total, so we'll size it up a little bit, maybe do an interior space for the second one. And then the third one, I usually try to do a compositional painting. So with regards to the trip itself, no Japanese is required, so there's that. We are going to start out in Tokyo, so you'll get a chance to see all that highly urbanized space, a lot of very interesting, bigger spaces, smaller spaces. We'll see the Tokyo sky tree, so you get to see that great vista from way up high. But also a little bit of history since we will be stopping by the Tokyo National Museum, which is in Ueno. And then after that, we'll be going to Kyoto, which is more traditional. It's the background you see back here. It's the all of the old historical sites, the temples, the shrines, and a little bit of modern as well. We'll be hitting up the Borderless Digital Art Museum and also the International Manga Museum, which most things are not in English there, but you can still explore. They have tons and tons of volumes of manga in there. You're free to read all of them for free while you're there. You just can't take them out. But you can definitely take that as an opportunity to explore and see all the different art styles that those artists have.
Professor Delane, before we talk about the cost, the last item here on this slide, can you just share how you came to choose Japan as the destination for this program and what past experience or connection you have with that country?
Well, first of all, I think Japan is just really cool. Like, there's tons of interest in them, in their works, in their aesthetics, because it's so different than what we have here. And it makes it so much more interesting to look at and to explore because it's not something that we ourselves are used to looking at. So there's that. There's also the other side of this, which is I lived there. I lived there for 3 years. I studied the language as a minor when I was an undergraduate myself. So I'm relatively fluent, even though it's been a while since I used it. But I feel confident in being able to take others there and be able to navigate that space without getting overwhelmed.
I know that a lot of students have already talked to you about their interest in the program, and many have started applications. So what is the most common question that they ask, and what do you tell them?
So I think most of the questions have been kind of like the basic ones, which is where do I apply, how do I apply, which is, of course, through the Office of International Education's website. Find it under the faculty-led programs. And the other question is usually to do with financial aid and things of that nature, and questions of can I apply my financial aid towards this, which it is a WinTerm class, which means yes, you can apply financial aid towards it. But I'll leave those details to you. I think you have a better insight.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So before we bring in Jamie, that's what I wanted to mention here was talk a little bit about cost. The total estimated cost is $5,375, which includes the program fee of $4,650 that covers tuition and fees, airfare, local transportation, accommodation, cultural events, and some meals. That total cost also includes about $725 for out-of-pocket expenses, which includes things like airline baggage fees, meals on your own, and spending money for souvenirs, etc. And I would like to draw your attention to a great section on our website called Finances, where you can learn about your options to use financial aid, as Professor Delane just mentioned, apply for loans, and use scholarships as well as crowdfunding sites to finance your experience. So I hope that you'll check that out. Okay, let's look at some gorgeous photos of the places that you'll be visiting on this program while we chat with Jamie from AEA. In fact, I wanted to mention that the background here for me is from one of the sites that you'll be visiting on the itinerary, as well as the background in Professor Delane's. Yes, exactly. It's gorgeous. All right, Jamie, can you tell us a bit more about AEA's experience in Japan?
Sure. Yeah. So we've actually been doing programs in Japan since about 2005 when the company started. And Sam, the company owner and director, actually created the company after he lived in Asia for many years, including in Japan. And he was just totally taken with, the region and really wanted to bring more people there. So that's actually where the company started. So we've been doing programs in Japan since then. We usually run about 3 to 4 programs to Japan every year. So we've done quite a few over the years. Then we have done probably about 4 or 5 programs over the years that were specifically focused on design and art and manga and things like that. So pretty cool.
Great. Actually, related to that, what is the feedback that you get from your past participants to similar programs that you've run in Japan? such as like what is the students' favorite sites in Tokyo and Kyoto?
Yeah, I think Japan is just one of those places that you go and you're completely taken with, the beauty of everything, and also just how different everything looks compared to what we're used to in the US. So I think generally students absolutely love going to Japan and our Japan programs, and we get a lot of good feedback just overall from it. It's also a very safe and welcoming country, so that's always really great too. In Tokyo, there's so much to do. I mean, it's just a gigantic city, and there's so many amazing things to see. But one of the highlights we almost always include is a walking tour through Shinjuku, which I believe this is a picture of. It's a really famous area of the city. It's got that iconic Tokyo feeling that I think a lot of students hope to see, with neon lights and lots of karaoke and just so many people in one area. And it's also a really amazing place to see just fashion like you've never seen it. Even if you're not super into fashion, it's just the people watching and taking in all of the visuals, I think is really incredible there. And then, like was mentioned previously, Kyoto is a really nice city to pair with Tokyo because it is, much less densely urban and has a lot more traditional architecture and beautiful temples and really, really good food. So I think it's just a great combination. And one of the highlights, there's a lot of things that students love there as well, but it's a great city to spend a night in a ryokan, which this program includes, which is a traditional Japanese style accommodation with tatami mats on the floor that are kind of like soft futon mattresses. And it's just really special. We have lots of really fun photos of students enjoying that a lot. So it's always a highlight. So the combination I think is really nice.
I think it's such a great opportunity that they're going to be able to stay in a traditional inn. I know that's just for a certain portion of the itinerary. What else can you tell students about where they'll be staying?
Yeah, so it's important to know that Japan has a lot of people in a smaller area than the US, of course. So I think as Americans, we're often really used to having very big hotel rooms and just lots of space around us a lot of the time. Whereas in Japan, especially in Tokyo and Kyoto too, but especially in Tokyo, space is really at a premium. So, bedrooms are just going to feel a lot smaller, and, bathrooms are going to feel a lot smaller, and just all the spaces in general are going to feel a lot smaller. But design is very important and very much a part of everything there. So it will all be clean and organized and very thought out, but it will just be smaller. So in both Tokyo and Kyoto, we have nice hostel accommodations with, I think, 4 to 5 beds in a room, single sex, but private to your group, of course. And the bathrooms will be shared, but they're separated by gender. So you're going to want to bring a pair of flip-flops or shower shoes for the hostel. Since they will be shared bathrooms. But they'll be very clean, very safe, very secure, but definitely smaller than, a Western style hotel that you would see in the US. And the ryokans, like I said, are very fun. They're tatami mats on the floor that are kind of like a soft futon mattress. And those I think are also they're 4 students to a room. And those actually have their own private bathroom, like per room. So.
Well, those really good tips. Thank you.
Sure.
One other question I had was that I know I mentioned earlier that AEA provides an on-site coordinator to be there with the faculty leader and the students. Can you share a little bit more about that role?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, they're there to provide support, health and safety support, keep everybody safe and, secure and all those things. But in addition to that, they're really there to help everybody feel a little less like a tourist and more connected to the culture and the people of Japan. Our local coordinators are just that. They're local to the city or the area where they're living and working. We will have a coordinator in Tokyo and a local coordinator in Kyoto. So they both have a lot of really specific knowledge to their city and to their home community. So they're a great resource for things like just learning ins and outs of Japanese culture. There's a lot of things that are really different there than are here. Small things and bigger things. Things like navigating public transportation. The public transportation in Tokyo is really something to behold. There are even if you just Google like a map of the Tokyo, public transit, it's mind-boggling just to look at it. So they're there to help navigate through all of that, and they'll be with the group a good amount of the time to actually go on the subway and the trains with you. Things like ordering food and things that maybe you shouldn't say or should say that we might not think of, things like that. They're basically your local support system when you're in Japan.
I think it's incredible to be able to have that local support.
Yeah.
And also that you have Professor Delane that has actually lived there. It's going to be really, and I think, add to the program that'll be much richer. Well, we're getting close to the end of time. Thank you, Jamie. I wanted to come back to you, Professor Delane, to wrap up with a question about something which everyone loves to talk about, which is food. I was wondering, what food are you most excited for students to try? Maybe something that you missed from your time living in Japan?
I have to say number one is the okonomiyaki.
Mm.
I know most people here in the States, they think of Japan and their mind immediately goes to sushi. But I'm not a fish person myself, so the sushi isn't as exciting to me. But okonomiyaki is very engaging and fun because in certain places they let you make it yourself. And there's a whole bunch of different types you can try, and it's just really tasty. So I'm excited about that. And I know Kyoto is kind of known for their okonomiyaki.
I was lucky enough to go to Kyoto, and my one really strong memory was going just to a grocery store and just being in the pickle section, because we just think of pickles as just one vegetable, cucumbers, but they pickle everything, it seems like to me. So it was so much fun just to try all sorts of different types. So
they do have a lot of different pickles.
They do. All right. Well, thank you both so much, and all of you viewers for joining us. And I hope that you will learn more and apply by going to uwstout.edu/study abroad. Thanks.